If you're feeling stuck with your story and you can't make progress or you can't finish it, let's change that. Stick with me for a few minutes and I'll help you get moving today. In this video, I'll give you both practical steps and mindset reminders that'll help you get your story finished. I'm Kieran, I'm a writer and a freelance editor, and I'm here to help you develop as a writer and tell the best version of your story. That's what I love doing. So, the first thing we need to do is just take a second. Let your shoulders drop, take a big breath. You'd be surprised how often that helps reset you a little bit. Now, let's get going in a new direction. Something I've learned from my work as an editor and 15 years of my own writing is that if you're getting stuck and not finishing stories, it's likely because you're actually trying to do too much, not that you're doing too little. And even if you think that doesn't apply to you, let me explain a little bit more and keep an open mind, because you might find this is just what you're missing. Think about everything that we as writers need to do to write a really good finished story, all the stuff that we need to balance. Trying to be efficient, trying to be impactful, trying to plan ahead, trying to avoid being predictable, trying to be descriptive, trying to avoid purple prose, trying to be great at crafting characters, trying to manage the plot, trying to engage the reader, trying to make a point, trying to keep things interesting. And those are just a few of the elements that make up a good story. I could go on, but we know all of this. Now let me ask you, are you trying to write a finished story right now, a ready-to-read product? Or are you writing a first draft? Because if you haven't reached the end of your story yet, you're still writing a first draft, not a finished, ready to ship, ready to go to market book. That's a mindset shift that you can make today to take some of the pressure off. You might be expecting yourself, even subconsciously, to produce all of this quality and hit all of these marks while you're still working on the very first draft of your story and trying to tell it to yourself. A lot of writers fall into this trap. I've done it myself many times, and it's no wonder that we then end up struggling to finish a story or grinding to a halt. It's a huge amount to balance and organise and order and remember and implement, all while you tell yourself the story and discover it for the first time. It may not always seem like it, but you're asking too much of yourself if you expect to handle all of that with no issues while maintaining constant productivity. Think about it this way. If you had a friend that was working on a novel and they were a few thousand words into it, would you expect them to have all of this stuff covered? Would you suggest that they stop and go over what they've got time and time again until it's absolutely perfect? Probably not. You'd probably encourage them to just keep going and not worry about that stuff till later. So why don't you treat yourself that way? All of those things, that great long list of requirements for a story, they're important for sure. But it's just not possible to hold them all in your hands and still type out a perfect story. This is exactly why redrafting is a thing. You have as many chances as you need to rework and reapproach things. Nobody's watching and nobody ever asks how many drafts you took. The best and most famous writers in the world all go through multiple drafts. They have editors, they change course, they cut and replace chapters. Nobody writes a perfect first draft. So for now, we can put all of that down and have our singular focus be on getting the basic story told. Simple enough in theory, but how do you actually do that? Well, I mentioned a more practical approach, so let's follow a few quick steps now to speed ourselves up and unburden our creativity. Step 1 is answer this question. What is the heart of your story? What's it about? And don't panic, don't overthink it. What's the first thing you thought of? Where did your mind go? That might be it. For me and the story I'm writing, I'd say it's all about abandonment and isolation. That's the heart of it for me. If it's not immediately coming to you, that's okay. Let's use some examples to demonstrate. The Lord of the Rings. Everyone's familiar with it. There's tons going on. There's this epic story. But in my opinion, the heart of that story is the power of friendship. The heart of the story isn't necessarily what happens and the plot and the events. It's what all of that means. The Martian by Andy Weir. Again, loads of plot points and things happening and explosions in space. But to me, the heart of that story is hope and survival. If you can, try to look at your story through that lens and isolate the heart of it. Then write it somewhere, a post-it note, scrap piece of paper, or the header on the top of your manuscript document. Anywhere that you'll see it regularly and be reminded of it. From that point onwards, as you write, your sole responsibility is to serve that. That'll be the only consideration you make as you're writing. Does this serve the heart of the story that I'm telling? If you're writing a dialogue scene, you're not thinking, Do their voices sound natural? Do they have goals for the conversation? Is that accent right? Is their wording correct there? Is this too fast? Is it too slow? Is there something missing? You're just thinking, does this dialogue serve the heart of my story? That's the only thing that you need to focus on. And I know that is something of a leap of faith that I'm asking you to take by forgetting all of that other important stuff, but honestly, it isn't as risky as it sounds. In my opinion, the most important part of any story is the heart of it, that central quality, the overall feel and identity of the story. It's all encapsulated in that heart. So if you keep that in mind as you write and reflect on it, you won't stray too far away. That means instead of worrying about a million things you have to accomplish, you can instead focus on one thing. You might be thinking, well, that's all good and well, Kieran, but the rest of that stuff still matters. I'm still going to have to make that dialogue authentic and make sure this scene isn't too fast or too slow and that it reads right and everyone can understand what I'm talking about. Right, absolutely, of course, but not right now. Right now, you're just writing the first draft. Here's the next mindset shift that we can take. Being a writer means being a lot of things at the same time, or as people often say, wearing a lot of hats. Writer, editor, marketer, manager, so on. However, you are just one person. I am just one person. It is only possible to be one person at a time. So we're going to do just that. In terms of writing your first draft, you are just going to be the writer. That's who you are, that's your role and your sole responsibility. Just write. All of that sprucing up and shaping and improving and developing and making perfect, all of that is not for the first draft writer to do. We just need to write. All the other stuff is for the editor to do. In the second draft, in the third draft, and so on. It's not our job right now. So when those things push the heart of your story out of your mind and barge their way in, as they inevitably will do, because we're only human, what we need to do is pass them onto the editor. We need to take them and add them to the editor's in tray. This is where the practical stuff comes in again. To make sure you're not taking on more than you need to while you write your first draft, it's a great idea to create a separate place for all of those distractions. All the questions and issues and irritations that aren't your job to deal with right now, get them out. The way I do this is just by making a simple bullet point list below my manuscript. Then every time something gets to me that doesn't directly contribute to the heart of my story and the immediate passage I'm working on, I just scroll down and dump it there at the bottom for later. After the first draft's done, the editor version of me knows the story better anyway and has the distance to look over things with fresh eyes and less pressure. But if you think you'll need a greater separation than that, create that separation. You could make an email address for your editor self and send all of the issues and questions that crop up there, or you could keep a tin on your desk and put notes in it for later. The point of this approach is that you're acknowledging and recording those preoccupations because a lot of them will be valid and useful later, but you're not just keeping hold of them or trying to deal with them all at once. The point of these mindset shifts and practical suggestions is to unburden yourself so that your mind has more space in which to create, and to silence the influence of self-doubt and criticism that we often don't even realise is going on. Give yourself permission to write a draft that doesn't meet all of your expectations yet. That will help you to reach the end of your story and will solidify it in a way that no amount of reshaping the first few thousand words will. Be a writer for now. Stick to your job, which is getting words down that serve the heart of your story. Pass on all those things that crop up for the editor to deal with. I just want to say thank you so much if you reach this point in the video. Not everybody does, so I really appreciate it. Go off and write your story. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy writing.